Señor Jorge, no hay sonido.
¿Cómo estás?
Ahora sí se siente. Antes no se oía nada.
No me di cuenta, se me había puesto en rojo
Mm,
mi sistema. ¿Cómo
ok,
has estado?
bien.
Hoy vamos a hacer qué página.
14,
Sí.
que media larga.
Ya empecé la 15.
¿Cómo?
Empecé la 15.
Ah, en español.
Sí,
Mm.
sí, sí, me gusta. Me gusta, me gusta.
¿Cuándo es? ¿De mañana es?
Bueno, yo lo puedo hacer a cualquier hora, pero me gusta hacerlo temprano porque siento que en- mentalmente me puedo enfocar mejor.
Sí. Ellos están en Israel, ¿verdad?
Sí, el programa se origina en Israel.
Ujú.
Ah.
¿Dónde está mi ahora? Oh, no, Walter.
Who did you think it was? Ernie?
Yeah, but Ernie's not here.
Okay.
Ay, ay, ay.
Hmm. No, no,
You texting him, Mario?
no.
Okay, I'll text him.
You want to text him?
Want me to?
I did not.
Here he is.
Ah, is he? Evening?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
We are on Yud Daled, 14. So we're talking about Pigul, and we had a sheet of Rav Yosi that if you have a machshava, let's say you have an animal, even if it's been cut into pieces, and you have machshava to eat one of the, let's say, has two thighs, and you have machshava to eat one of the thigh, if you consider it one, even though it's been cut into pieces, if you consider it one coming from one animal, it can be mitzaref with the other thigh. Just like the shtei lechem can, if you have a chatzi zayis of one lechem, a chatzi zayis of another lechem, they can also be mitzaref. But if they're two separate gufim, mitzaref, then you can't be mitzaref them, and you wouldn't be able to mitzaref the two loaves. Right? If you had in mind to eat half a kazayis of one loaf, half a kazayis of the other loaf, you're not mitzaref. And who is the shita? Hamani Rebbe, the Tanya. Hashoichet et keves. Remember, on Shavuos, you shecht two lambs, which allows you to eat the two loaves. Let's say Hashoichet is a keves, you shechted one of the lambs, lechol chatzi zayis mechalazu, to eat half a kazayis of one of the loaves. And during the shechit of the second animal, the second lamb, you had kavana to eat chatzi zayis of that chala chutz lizmano. So you have chatzi zayis from one, chatzi zayis from the other. Do we say they're mitztarev? Rabbi Omer ani shezeh kosher. It's not pigul, because he views the two lechems as two separate entities. Time edomer chatzi chatzi. And the reason it's not pigul, because he said half a kazayis from one, half a kazayis from the other. Avalamar kazayis mishtem. But let's say he would have said, I'm going to eat a kazayis from both of the loaves, but he's mitzaref it in his mind, then it would be mitzaref. So the Rebbe Ali b'daman. Well, who is Rebbe going like? Yeah, I believe it Rabbanon. Afilu b'achos ben nami. According to Chachamim, they don't like Rabbi Yossi. If you have kavanah to eat a kazayis from one of the loaves, the other one becomes pugel too. Yeah, you don't have to have machshava for both. Yeah, leave it Rabbi Yossi. Hadra kushan leduchte. We go back and ask the question about the two thighs. We asked the question, what did Rabbi Yossi hold? So how can Rabbi say clearly that even if you have in mind both of the loaves, one kazayis is going to be mitzaref? Really, the Baraisa quoting Rabbi is the sheet of the Chacham. V'lo temat shifaga b'shteyem. And you don't have to say it's a kazayis from the two loaves. Ele ema at shifagel b'shneihem. They're talking about you must have the pigul machshava when you shech both of the lambs. It has nothing to do with the loaves. It has to do with, you have to have a machshavas chutz lizmano, both in the shechit of one lamb and the shechit of the other lamb. But vafilu b'achas man, even though you only had kavana to eat from one of the loaves, both of them become pigul. Lafukim Rav Meir. And they want to show that they argue with Rav Meir, the mefaglim b'chatzi matir. There are two matirim to allow you to eat the shtei lechem. You have to shech both lambs. Now, if you only shech one of the lambs, you're only activating chatzi matir, half of the permitter. And therefore, according to Rav Meir, holds you can be mafagel b'chatzi matir. The Chachamim want to say no. You have to have pigul during shechita of both of the animals. Kamash v'landelo. Ihaki my lo'ilam. Why does the Brisa say la'oilam? It says in the Brisa of the two loaves that you never get pigul unless you have machshava regarding both of the loaves. I understand lo'oilo has to be both of the loaves and both of the lambs. Rabbi Yossi, who held that having machshava with only one of the loaves does not extend to the other. And he's showing that he doesn't hold neither like Rav Meir, neither like Chachamim. Lafukim and Rav Meir umin Rabbanan Kasi. Rav Meir says you could be mefagel even with slaughtering only one of the lambs. The rabbis, the Rabbanim say you have to slaughter both of the lambs, but you only have to machshava through one of them. Hainu de kamer lo'ila. Eliyamrit Rabbanon. But if the Bryce is the name of the Rabbanon, Ulafukim Rav Meir, only to say that we don't hold like Rav Meir who says mafagel mechatzi matir ma'lo olam. It's never. It's going to be according to Rabbi Yossi. There will be a situation. V'od ha'am Rav Ashi Toshma Rabbi Oimer Mishum Rabbi Yossi. For example, the Porim HaNisrafim, like the Par Helam Dover Shul Sibor, if the Beis Din made a mistake and they have to bring a Par Helam Dover, you shech the par outside, you bring the blood inside, and you sprinkle it on the mizbech and on the curtain, and then you dump the blood on the yesod outside. So, pigel bedover nase bachutz. In order to make a korban pigel, it has to be an avoda that is done outside of the heichal. Bedover nase bifnim lo pigel. There's no pigel if the machshava has to do with an avoda done inside. Now the Gemara will go through examples. Kate said, "Hayomet bachutz." He was in the Azara. V'omar reni shoichet, and he's shechting the animal. Al menas lahazis midamer lamachor, with the intent to sprinkle the blood tomorrow. Lo pigel. Shemachshava bachutz bedover nasa bifnim. Where is the blood sprinkled? It's sprinkled in the heichal. And we just gave a rule. In order to create pigel, it has to be completely bedover nasa bifnim. So he had the machshava bachutz, but it was regarding an action that's done inside. Another example. Haya oime bifnim. He was in the heichal, and he was sprinkling the blood. V'omareni mazeh al menas lahakter emurin lemachar, with the intent to burn the insides, the innards tomorrow on the outside mizbeach. V'lishpoch shirayim lemachar, and to pour the remainder of the blood after zrika on the yesod outside. Lo pigel, because his machshava was bifnim. He was in the heichal when he had the machshava. Shemachshava bifnim bedavar nasa b'chutz. In order to create pigel, the machshava has to be b'chutz on an action that's nasa b'chutz. Let's see which one. Haya oimi b'chutz. He was outside in the Azara. V'omar hareni shoichet al menas lishpoch shirayim lamachar, with the intent to pour the remainder of the blood on the yesod of the mizbech tomorrow. Well, he's outside where he's supposed to be. He's having a machshava chutz lizmano on an activity that's done outside. Or lahakter emurim lamachar, or he has in mind to burn the emurim tomorrow. Pigel. Shemachshava b'chutz, bedovra nasa b'chutz. That's the rule. Now, in this example, we said that if he had machshava to pour the blood on the yesod, lishpoch shirayim, lafkuli mai. Now, what part of the korban is going to become pigel? In order that if you eat a kazayas of it, you're going to get kores. So you have dam, but dam is not something that can become pigel, which you get kores. Dami mefaga vatnan. Elu dvorim she'en chayav lo mishum pigel. The following items, if you consume them, you don't get kores for pigel. The coin mates. Okay, the coin mates is something that's thrown on the fire. Anything that's burnt is not eaten, and therefore you're not going to be chayav pigel if you eat it. So hakoymates, valavoina, the spice, va'aktoiris, the incense were completely burnt. Minchas kohanim completely burnt. Minchas esachim completely burnt. Minchas kohen mashiach completely burnt. Va'adam, which is burnt. So what is becoming pigul in order for you to get the kares? Elab shita lifagule basar. The meat of the korban is going to become pigul. And if you ate a kazais with the meat, you would get kares. But hashta umasam dolichashav beba basar gufe. Here, his machshava was not on the meat. His machshava was on the blood or the emurim. So he never had a machshava regarding eating the meat. And yet, Amr Rabbi Yossi Mefagel, gufe. In the case of the thighs, we're going back to the two thighs, where there he's having in mind to eat of the meat itself. Lo koshken the pigul b'yerech gam and pigul b'yerech small. Certainly, if you had in mind the right thigh, the left thigh should also become pigul. So that's one second kasha. Third kasha. V'od amar Ravina Toshma. Hakoy mitzvah mincha. You perform the act of kmitzah with in mind, lechol shirei lahaktir kumtzah lamachar. Either to eat the shiraim of the mincha tomorrow, or to burn the kmitzah tomorrow. Moed Rabbi Yossi bezusha pigul v'chel v'kares. Rabbi Yossi agrees that there is pigul here. Now, if he has in mind lahaktir kumtzah, he's not having in mind to eat the shiraim. He's having in mind to be maktir the koimetz. What is becoming pigul? Lafugule mai. Ilem lafuge koimetz. It's not the koimetz is not going to become pigul. Koimetz mimafagel. We just included it in the list of those things that don't become pigul. Vatnan. Elu dvarim shem chavla mishum pigul. HaKoimetz. Elab shita lafugule shirayim. What is going to become shirayim is the remaining flour. But he didn't have in mind the flour. He had in mind the koimetz. And again, that's the proof. He didn't have specifically in mind the shirayim. Yet it becomes pigul mefagle. Here he had in mind the right thigh, and we're questioning whether the left thigh becomes pigul. And certainly should become pigul. So we reject the way Rav Huna understood Rabbi Yossi. Elam Rav Yochanan, Hainu Tamed Rabbi Yossi. We asked the Kasha Rabbi Yossi. There was a Mishnah that said that if he had a machshavas pigul for only one of the shtei alechem, we said the other loaf doesn't become pigul. It seems like Rabbi Yossi is treating each one individually. But we also brought a brisa that it said that if he had a machshava of a kazayas from both loaves, we said it also becomes pigul. So you see, if they're not viewed, the shtei alechem are not viewed independently, they're viewed as a unit. So Rav Huna tried to explain, but we rejected Rav Huna. So, Hainu Tam Rabbi Yossi HaKosuv Asan Guf Echad. The Torah refers to the Shtei Alechem as one unit. And HaKosuv Asan Shnei Gufin. There are other psukim that imply that they're individual. Guf Echad Demak Ve'adadi. The Shtei Alechem are needed for each other. If you're going to offer one, you got to offer the other. Shnei Gufim, but when the Torah refers to them as two units, because each one has to be made separately. So regarding pigul, they can be treated either one or two, as two. If in his mind arvinu misarvin, if you have in mind, I'm going to eat a total of kazayas from both loaves, because the kosuv ason gufecha, the Torah made it one guf. If you want to separate it and pagina miflagi, and you want to say I'm going to eat a kazayas from one, and that way only one would become pigul if he ate a kazayis, not the other. Boy, Rav Yochanan. When a person was saved from prison, or he traveled across the ocean, or he was sick and he was healed, he brought a korban toda, which was a shlamim. And along with that korban shlamim, he had to bring 40 loaves of bread. Pigel balach metoda mao. And the lachme toda, the 40 breads are 4 categories. 10 are chametz, 10 are matzah that are made into loaves, 10 are matzahs that are made into like wafers, and the other one is made into scalded flour. If he has in mind one of the types, does it make the other ones pigul? B'minchas ma'afim multiple categories of a baked mincha. If he has only one in mind, are the other ones become pigul? It's a machlokes between Rabbi Yossi and the Chachamim. Rabbi Yossi says only the lechem that you have machshava on will become pigul, the other will not. The Chachamim say once you have machshava with one, it's pigul for all of them. Torah Rabban. B'shas shchita chishiv lachol chatzi sayis. When you shechted an animal, you had in mind to eat half a kazayas beyond its normal time. Uvishas zrika chishev lochol chatzi zayis. And then when you did the zrika, you had in mind to eat a chatzi zayis beyond its time. Is your machshava half a kazayas during shchita and zrikas, it's mitzarif. So the din is pigul. Yes. When they shchita zrika mitzarif. The act of shchita, machshava during shchita, and the act of machshava during zrika will be mitzarif. Ikedi amri. Other people learn shchita, zrika, the tervayu matirin. Shchita and zrika are matir to allow you to eat the meat of a korban. So therefore, those two, any machshava during those two avodos will combine in. Kabbalah v'hoilocha lo, receiving the blood and walking the blood over the mizbeach, those are not mitzvah. Ikedi amri, hanach de marachkin, if shchita and zrika are mitzvah and they're far away apart in time from each other, koshken hani de mekarvigan, then I would be mitzvah hoilocha and Kabbalah because they're right next to each other. Eini, it's not so. Vatani Levi. Arba avodot ein mitzarfin lepigul. Shchita, zrika, kabbalah, v'locha. We have a Mishnah brought by Levi that says none of this is mitzarif. Amar Rav Eloi Kasha, Harabi, the brisa that we just brought, that you can't combine any of these machshavas, is the sheet of Rabbi Harabanan that you can be mitzarif. Where do we see this machlokes Titania? We're back to Shavuos, and he shechted the shnei chvasim, one of them, with an intent to eat half a kazayis from one of the shtei alecha. V'chein chaver, then he shechted the other lamb, lechol chatzi zayis mechalazu, and had in mind to eat a chatzi zayis from the other chala. Rebbe Omer anish zeh kosher. It's not pigul. The two chatzizayis are not mitzarif. Armle Abaya, Emed Hashemisle Rebbe. You know why, according to Rebbe, they don't combine? Because it's a chatzi mater v'chatzi achila. Both, shchit of both is required to be mater. So it was only, the machshava was only done during the chatzi matir. And it wasn't a full shear for achila either. It's only half a kazayas. But maybe a machshava of kulo matir v'chatzi achila mishamisle. We don't know what he would hold if the machshava was throughout the complete matir, which is the two shchitas, and then with chatzi zayis of consumption, maybe it would. Maybe Rebbe would agree that it would be mitzvah. We still don't know. Susie? Oh, Sue? Bring me a tissue. Thank you. Armalei Rava Barav Chanan Labaya. V'yisle leRebbe Kula Matir v'chatzi achila. If you're going to say that that would work to make pigol, ligs or chatzi matir v'chatzi achila, you should at least make a gzeira that it's possible. It may not be pigol with kares, but it should not be allowed to be eaten. But Rebbe said you're allowed to eat it. He said kosher. Because you want to avoid someone getting close to the full Isser of Pigul. And we see other people have made Gzeres. The Rabbi Yossi Gozar. Rabbi Yossi, when it was not sufficient to make something Pigul, he at least said it was Pasul Vein Bakaris. He didn't say kosher like Rebbe. And Rabban also Gazri. Where do we see? Rabbi Yossi Gozar, this not. Our Mishnah, if you had an intent, lahakter levoinasa lamachar, to burn the levona tomorrow. Rabbi Yossi Amar Pasul Vein Bakaris. Right? He didn't hold it was pigul. Because you had a machshava during the matir to offer the levona. So it didn't suffice to make pigul, but it didn't say kosher. He said pasul, it's a gzeira. Chamer in pigul, chamer kares. And we'll see Rabbana Nami Gazri Disnan. Pigel bakoimetz v'lo balevona. In those menachos that you have to offer the koimetz and the levona. So it's two matirim. And he had his machshava only during the kmitz and not during levona. Or b'levoina v'lo bakoimetz. Reb Meir Emet Pigul v'chalom kares, because we learned Reb Meir holds mefaglin b'chatzi matir, and if you had a machshavas Pigul during either the koimetz or the lavona, each one is half of a matir, and that creates Pigul according to Reb Meir. However, the Chachamim says you ain't mefaglin b'chatzi matir. You need to have the machshavas Pigul during both permitters. The Chachamim are ein bokares ashifagin b'chol matir. He just says ein bokares. But it's possible. So how can you tell me why wouldn't, even if you're going to say the answer you said in Rebbe, he should have made a gzeira, he shouldn't have said kosher. You can't compare the gzeiras of Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanon to Rebbe. Bishma Hasam, Gaza Rabbi Yossi koimetz levona or to koimetz to mincha. When you have in mind during the Kmitza, to be makter the Levona the next day, so you have a Gzeira because the intent to burn the Kmitza the next day would be giving you Pigul. So we make a fence and we say it's Pasul Vein Bakaris. Similarly, Rabbanan Gazri koimetz to koimetz to minchas choite. Even though the Rabbanan agree that a mincha has two matirim, the kmitza and the levona, and yet the chachamim say having machshava during the kmitza alone is sufficient to make pigul. Why? Because there are menachos that don't have levona, like the minchas chote, the sinner's mincha. or ulavona at lavona babivzichin. Sometimes you offer the lavona alone without the kmitza, like the lechem aponim. By the sheeps, by shvuas, kvosim nami keves atu keves chavero. They make the gzeira because if you do it for this lamb, you're going to end up doing it on that lamb. Bozachatu bozachavero. The same thing by lechem aponim. Elahacha by Rebbe, we had machshava of chatzi zayis when you only shechted one of the kvosim. Mi'ike chatzi matar v'chatzi achile ba'alma. There's never a case of true pigul when you had a machshava during chatzi matar for only chatzi achila, and we're going to stand up to leikum v'ligzer. We're not. So Rebbe said it was completely kosher to eat, and ochinami mistavra. It makes sense. The time the Rabbanim mishum hachi who diktani seifa. The seifa itself says moedim chacham Rab Meir b'minchas choyte minchas knois. Rabbi Meir held that normally, if you have a mincha and it has lavona and kmitza, and if you have a machshavas pigul doing only one of them, it creates pigul because mafaglim b'chatzi matir, and the Rabbanan say no, ein mafaglim b'chatzi matir. But the Chachamim will admit to Reb Meir by a sinner's mincha, the mincha brought by a sota, there's no lavona, it's only kmitza. Shim pigel b'koimetz alone. Shepigel v'chadol hakores. She'akoimetz hu amatir completely. Now, halam elila mistakla pshita. Mi'ikir matir, and there's no other matir. And lava kamashmala on the time of the koimetz. The reason why they also say that if you have a machshavas pigel during a regular mincha during the kmitza is mishum dika koimetz the minchas choyte the damila, because it's similar. It's all exera because it can create pigel. Period. Mishnah. Nitmeis achad min achalois or echad min astorim. On Shavuos we have two shtei lechem. One of the lechems becomes tamei. By lechem aponim you have 6 loaves piled up one on top and 6 loaves piled one on top. Those are called 2 storim. Let's say one of the piles of 6 loaves became tamei. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Shneim Yetzel Beis Hasrei. You got to take everything out and burn it. She'ein korban sibur choluk. You don't divide korbanot sibur. Chachamim oimrim hatamei betumaso hator yeyochel. You burn the tamei one. Like every din of a korban that becomes tamei. The other one that's tahor, you eat. On Rabbi Lazar, machloikas lefnei zrika. This is before you threw the blood of the shtei lechem to allow you to eat the shtei lechem, or before you threw the lavona to allow you to eat the shtei lechem. Then there's this machloikas. Avalacha zrika. But first you did the zrika, and then the lechem became tamei. Then everybody will, including Rabbi Yehuda, would hold divrei kol hatamei b'tumas v'ator yeyochel. V'lifnei zrika b'may pligi. What is the yesod of the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim before zrika? Rav Papa b'tzitz meratza lachilos kamifliki. The Kohen Gadol, one of his begadim, he wore on his head was the tzitz. The tzitz was meratza for tumah. Now, are they meratza for things that are eaten? Or maybe they're only meratza for things that are burnt on the mizbeach? And that we're going to see is a machlokas, and we're going to learn that tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow, the Daf Yomi will be at 7.